this kid in my class, big, tall, goofy kid, and he's disrupting my class. Probably the best thing that ever happened is he was disrupting my class because I literally had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So this kid kept acting out. And I finally got mad one day, and I said, look, if you keep disrupting my class, I'm going to come down and I'm going to take a desk and I'm going to shove it right up your ass.
All righty.
Yeah. And then he behaved. Then about a week later, the department head, who was a very nice man, called me in his office and he said, Mr. Hess, he said, it has recently come to my attention that you told Mr. So-and-so that you were going to insert a desk in his rectum.
It's those exact words.
And he said, did you really say that? I said, yeah, I did. And he said, I've been wanting to say that for many years. He said, please don't say it again.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. You're not going to believe what we've been going through, not just for today, but for days, trying to get everything set up. As you can see, our guest is blacked out today. That's because we just could not figure out how to get his camera to work. And I'll tell you, part of it was he hadn't logged in his computer since 2021, and here we're recording in 2025. So that tells you something right there, right? But welcome back. Seriously, welcome back to the show. Love having you guys come back every week. I'm continuing to try something different that we started with last week's episode, where rather than having 2 episodes in 1 week, I'm doing it all as one straight episode. And I'm going to get your feedback. Let me know what you think. If you like the shorter episodes divided into 2, let me know. And if you like this, let me know. I just need to know either way. If you haven't hit that subscribe button on YouTube already, please go do that. That helps with everything. It helps with advertising, and it keeps me from having to pay these guests out of my pocket. You know, he asked me how much he was going to get paid for this. I said, well, I'm going to double your pay from the last time we talked. So now it's double or nothing. Anyway, our guest today is a retired DEA agent, a former combat veteran that served in the war in Vietnam. It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome Dave Hess to the show. Dave, welcome very much, brother.
Oh, finally glad to be here.
And I got to tell the listeners here, we've been 2 hours and 8 minutes trying to get this thing to work. We have tried everything. We tried doing it on phones. We tried doing it over headsets. We tried doing it without headsets. We tried everything that you could think of to try. And this is the best we could come up with. So one of my plan is I want to put a face shot of Dave up here so at least you can see what he looks like. But Dave spent 20 years with the DEA after he did his Vietnam tour. He's got a very interesting background. We're going to get into that, all that. He's now an author. I want to show you his first book here, and we're going to talk about these later in the show. But this is the book I'm reading now, Ambush by David Hess. It's a combination. It's really a 3-part story about a character in here who I'm going to guess is very close to our guest today because he's a sarcastic smartass in the book. And we might hear that come across today, which I hope, because that's why I've invited him on the show. But exciting reading, especially if you're ever interested in the Vietnam War and about DEA, and then about how it all tied together. The plot of this book is very interesting. I've never read one like this before. So he actually came up with a unique idea. Probably stole it from Bill Ayre, I'm guessing. Is that right?
I think I tried to steal from Bill Ayre was his wife.
Yeah. See, no secrets here on Game of Crimes.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
And I'm not going to edit it out. But if you're wondering how I met Dave, it was through Bill Ayre. And if you remember, he was our guest here on episode 180 that came out on January 20th, 2025. Retired DEA agent also. And after we did Bill's interview, and I got to fess up to this, if I call Dave today Bill, it's because I've been doing it all afternoon here. And Dave, I apologize because I almost did it again right there. I even wrote his name down on a piece of paper here so I wouldn't forget it. Dave. I'll put that up there.
His name is Dave.
That's a tough one too.
Oh, that is all 4 letters. Yeah.
That's
tough. Yeah.
All right. So Dave, it is, I got to quit laughing here because I'm going to start having tears run down my cheeks here. We've been laughing and cussing for the last 2 hours.
Yes.
But let's just get in with the interview and have some fun with this today. I'm really sorry that we can't see him, but hopefully I'll be able to get the picture up there for you. So, Dave, if you would just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your family dynamics were, if you have brothers and sisters, go into high school, and then we'll talk about what happened after high school.
Well, I grew up in a little town called Carbondale, Pennsylvania, outside of Scranton. It was a coal mining town, one of the very first coal mining anthracite towns in the world. My dad was a coal miner, ran a drag line for very little money, and had two brothers and two sisters. Yeah, two and two. I have one left, and northeastern Pennsylvania is tough place to grow up in. Its history of mining is absolutely amazing when you start reading about it. Big baseball area back in the day. If you're a baseball fan and you were to start doing research, as I did at one point because I was probably bored, more Major League Baseball players have come out of the northeastern Pennsylvania than any other part of the country.
Wow.
And the reason for that was they started working in the mines back in the 20s and the teens when they were kids, 7 years old, 8 years old. They were in the mines. And on Sundays, the owners of the mines allowed them to have a baseball game to entertain them, to entertain the owners. And many of them became really very, very good ball players, and they left the mines and went and became Major League Baseball players. So it's an interesting aspect of the Scranton, Carbondale area.
Wow.
I went to Catholic school for 8 years, and then the nuns thought I would do better at the other school. So I went up.
Why is that?
I don't know why that was. Things started to fall apart. And so my mother died when I was very young. And my father being a coal miner, I was the last one left at the house, and he was doing the best he could to raise me. And all I wanted to do was learn how to play guitar and be a rock star. So at the age of 17, I quit high school when I was a sophomore and went off to the Army when I was 17.
But how did you do that without education?
Well, I had a really nice recruiter.
Really?
Ironically, his name was Snare.
There's your butt.
Jerry Snare.
Yeah.
My father would say, yeah, he snared you. But he was a nice guy, and he said, hate to see you not get your education. And he told me to go up to Scranton Technical High School and lie my age and get a GED. So I had my high school diploma when I was 16 because I went up and lied my age, and I did quite well on the GED thanks to the wonderful nuns of 8 years of training. So then I joined the Army with my father's permission, and I think he realized at that point that nothing good was going to happen except I was going to get in trouble. So during the Tet Offensive, I joined the Army. So that gives you an idea how smart I am.
What year was that?
1968, February 25th, 1968.
Wow.
So I spent 2 years, 7 months, and 5 days in the Army.
But who's counting?
Yeah, but
wow.
And I went, and you couldn't go to Vietnam when you were 17. They didn't allow it. But once I turned 18, I don't know what I was thinking. I put in to go to Vietnam, and I was a tank driver at Fort Riley with the 24th Division. And then when I got to Vietnam, it didn't quite work that way. They said, well, you're going to go with the 173rd Airborne. And I was trying to explain to them that it wasn't airborne. And they said, don't worry about it. You're not going to be jumping out of planes or anything. They said, you're going to go to a mechanized infantry unit. And I got there and ended up in they don't even have them anymore. That's how old I am. A flamethrower platoon.
Wow.
And I was attached to the scouts. So we spent 13 months there, and then I got out. And I came back, and accidentally I got into DEA purely literally accidentally. It was it's a strange story, but to make a very long story short, depending how long this interview goes.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how much I like this. I had a friend who worked for the Veterans VA in Philadelphia, and I was working as a veterans representative after I graduated from college at this small college, and we would do the paperwork for guys coming in, guys and gals. Not many gals at that time, mostly guys. But they would come up from Philadelphia to check, make sure we were doing the right paperwork and the vets were going to school. They weren't just passing money out. Probably like the new Doge today, you know?
Yeah.
Doge, yeah. They were just making sure we weren't wasting their money. So this guy, he was a Vietnam vet, had actually both legs blown off. He was a Marine, and we became very good friends. He said to me, he called me one day, and he said, look, a friend of mine is an FBI agent, and he's going to be working in Scranton area for about a month or two. Would you mind if I was single at the time. I was divorced from my first wife. Would you mind if he stayed with you? And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want an FBI agent in my house. I got shit going on.
Did you really?
Well, I was busy. You know, I was divorced. I was having a good time. So this guy shows up, nice guy, typical FBI agent, had the tie on and the whole thing. Nice guy. So he gets talking to me about law enforcement. At this point, I'm 31 years old. I'm thinking law enforcement. I don't know about that. No. So he said, you should go test for the FBI. So I go down, I test for the FBI. I failed the test, of course, and obviously failed the personality test. Didn't fit the mold. He said, well, try it again. So this time I even do worse. So he said to me, I think you'd be a good fit for the DEA. Now, this is the honest to God's truth. Steve, I had no idea what DEA was. None. Zero.
Oh.
So I go to the library. This is pre-Google days, and I'm looking up DEA. I'm thinking agriculture. So I go, oh, I can do that. I know a lot of drug guys.
Yeah.
So I go down, and I think, like, there's no test. I'm like, oh, I'm in. So I think, as I told you, I got interviewed by 3 of DEA's finest. The interview lasted approximately 7 minutes, and they all looked at each other and they said, oh, he looks okay to me. What do you think? Yeah, he'll be all right. He was in Vietnam. He's good to go. So that's how I ended up in DEA.
Oh.
And then they didn't call me. And I was doing this veterans outreach program, and I hated it. I hated talking to veterans. They were driving me crazy. I'd come in and lie to you about. I'm thinking, these guys need to go to jail. I mean, I was really depressed. I mean, in high retrospect, I probably needed psychological help. I mean, I was losing it. So about the day that I was going to really lose it, I got home that night and the phone rang. This is a year and a half after the interview. There was a woman from Philadelphia. Are you still interested in becoming an agent? Yeah, I am. And now I are a retired DEA agent.
There you go. Well,
so
before we get into your DEA career, I want to back up just a little bit here.
That'll be short.
What college did you graduate from?
University of Scranton. It's a Jesuit college. It's very good college. I went to Penn State. Everything in my life is like a ladder. I can't explain it, but if one thing doesn't happen in my life, the next thing doesn't. So again, my mother died when I was young. There was no way in hell I was going to ever be able to drop out of school if she was alive. So if she doesn't die, I don't go in the Army. If I don't go in the Army, my father doesn't remarry. I come home. I've got a stepsister who's working with this woman. I meet this woman. I marry her. I'm working in a factory making $1.60 an hour. And she said, well, can't you go to school? I said, well, I don't have an education. So I went down and talked to them at Penn State in Scranton. And they said, well, we have a program. If you can do 2 terms, back then they had terms instead of semesters. If you can pass 2 terms with a C average, we admit you as a full-time student.
Okay.
Piece of cake. But then I got my money and I thought, well, I'm leaving. So there happened to be a teacher there by the name Paul Perrone, who said to me, Dave, and he was a veteran, he said, don't leave. He said, you're a good writer. And he said, stick around a little bit. So I did. And then I finished my 2 years there, and then I went to the University of Scranton. But a funny story about Paul Perone, we're still good friends. He's 83 years old. He's still teaching at Penn State.
Wow.
And in fact, on the back of that ambush is one of the testimonies from Paul. So I get looking one day, not long ago, through some of my old college papers that I wrote. And here's Perone. So I call him up. I said, Paul, you gave me a bunch of bad grades. He said, well, I don't want to get your head bloated up. So
Thanks.
then I'm reading these things. I'm going, this is bad.
Really?
I mean, it was typical college writing, trying to think too deep and trying to use words I didn't know what they meant.
Yeah. But then what was your
I
major
used to
in
get-
college?
What's that?
What was your major in
I
college?
started out as a sociology major for whatever reason. Then I became, Paul basically turned me into an English major.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big difference.
If it wasn't for Paul, he turned my whole life around. You know, I credit him with everything, even though I always tell him he's a dick for giving me those C's and D's. So I went to the University of Scranton, and it is a really good Jesuit college. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's one of the top colleges for biology and pre-med, basically in the country.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Well, now you should go up there and take some classes.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Because it's warm up here.
You're right.
The sun is out today. First time the sun has been out like literally in 3 weeks.
When we're recording this for our listeners in mid-February, I don't think
Yes,
it's too warm.
It's the wind chill right now is 0.
Oh,
Okay.
goodness. That's why I moved to Florida.
Yeah, it's not good.
Did you have any say-so in basic training, what your MOS was going to be?
No, but before you joined Sergeant Snare, there was 3 of us went in on the buddy plan. And he said, look, you guys are all fairly smart, which we were, kind of, probably a little bit higher than the average soldier. He said, I'm going to get you enrolled as the MOS was 72B, Communications Specialist. And it was just sending teletypes. And it was an intel. We had top secret clearances. So I went to AIT after basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. I was clueless. I didn't know what they were talking about. Failed out of that after 2 weeks. Colonel called me and he said, no, we have another plan for you. And that plan was to be a tank driver. And that's how I ended up in the infantry.
Wow.
So I went off to Fort Knox, became a tank driver, went to Fort Riley, and then went to Vietnam. But it was all fun.
Rather than going to University of Scranton, if you passed those 2 terms with C average or higher, did you not want to go to Penn State, or what was different?
I did, but my wife was going to college at a college up here called Marywood. The University of Scranton used to be all boys, and Marywood used to be all women. And now it doesn't. It's like everything else. So I wanted to go to main campus down to Penn State, but my wife was at Marywood, and she was a junior, and we couldn't uproot her. It's interesting how it all worked out. I got very involved through Paul Perone in theater. And
Really?
Yeah, I did a lot of theater. And I wanted to get a master's degree in theater productions. And I went down for the interview, and the guy was a dick. And he said, well, you don't have enough experience. Well, I had directed about 15 professional productions. Wasn't much of an actor, but I was a pretty good director. And he just blatant, no, you don't have the experience. So, get out. Then I got a graduate assistantship, and the only reason I got that is because no one wanted it. So one of the professors at the university who liked me said, Dave, how would you like to be a graduate assistant? Now, I knew nothing about teaching, nothing. And when I tell you nothing, I mean nothing.
Yeah.
So now they take me and they throw me into a classroom teaching speech. I still remember the guy's name, but I won't give it to you. He was one of my students. Now, you got to realize, okay, I do have post-traumatic stress. And at that time, it was really flaring. My marriage wasn't great. I was still living in Vietnam. I used to sit around the house reading Soldier of Fortune. I don't know why that bothered her.
She's reading Cosmo.
She told me that recently. She said, well, of course I thought you were crazy. You were reading them books. You were talking about going to Africa and killing people. I said, well, I was crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I was like an asshole.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was I saying? Were you paying attention?
Yeah, that you were suffering from PTSD.
Oh, so I get this graduate assistantship. So I had this kid in my class, big, tall, goofy kid, and he's disrupting my class. Probably the best thing that ever happened is he was disrupting my class because I literally had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So this kid kept acting out. And I finally got mad one day, and I said, I said, if you keep disrupting my class, I'm going to come down and I'm going to take a desk and I'm going to shove it right up your ass.
All righty.
Yeah. And then he behaved. Well, then about a week later, the department head, who was a very, very, very nice man, called me in his office and he said, Mr. Hess, he's very soft-spoken. He said, it has recently come to my attention that you told Mr. So-and-so that you were going to insert a desk in his rectum.
It's those exact words.
And he said, did you really say that? I said, yeah, I did. And he said, I've been wanting to say that for many years. He said, please don't say it again.
Okay.
So I didn't become a good teacher, which I think I did until I got to Quantico, ironically. Yeah. And I went to the 2-week school. They teach you how to be a teacher. It's amazing. Guys go up there, they can't even speak, and they come out phenomenal instructors.
Yep.
And, but yeah, my teaching career was short-lived at the University of Scranton. They didn't invite me back.
Well, hey, one thing I want to ask you too, when you came back from Vietnam, what year was it?
1970, October 5th.
What was the response of people here in the United States when you came back?
That's a sore spot with me because I wish you could see my face now. I did not have the same experiences that most of the vets that you talk to say, oh, they spit on me and they call me baby killer. And I didn't experience that at all. Again, come from blue collar mining town. When I got there, there was and that was sort of interesting. There was about 20 of us that got back about the same time. We would go to the bar every night for a couple of years. But we would get together at the bar and we would talk about our experiences, which we didn't know what we were doing, but we were having sessions.
Yeah.
And most of us turned out pretty good. But guys who came back and didn't want to talk about the war and kept it to themselves, they're the ones that had the problems. But we would all sit around and get drunk and talk. And then that's when I learned about how veterans can lie to you. I'd say, I know you didn't do that, liar. So it was fun. For 2 years, we wrecked a lot of cars up. A lot of them went to jail. Well, one night.
Uh-oh. Now you start the story. You got to tell us now.
Well, I was drunk, very, very drunk. And I was going home. It was 4:30 in the morning. I'm going down the street, and there's a cop car in front of me. And this prick is going like 10. I put my turn signal on, and I pass him. I don't know what I'm thinking, right? So he lights me up. Now, again, small town, 15 cops. Everybody knows everybody. I'm drunk. I got PTSD. Didn't know I had PTSD, but I had it. So he comes up and he's like, roll the window down. So I've been drinking for like a day and a half. He says, Dave, what the hell are you doing? I said, what? He said, you passed me on Belmont Street. I said, well, you were going real slow. I said, I put my turn signal on. Now, this guy happened to be a very good friend of my brother's. They grew up together. And he's trying to be a nice guy. He really is. Well, you really shouldn't be driving this way when you're that intoxicated. And now I I flare. And I said, "You're a draft dodger. Get in the car." So now he's got me. He didn't cuff me up, but he put me in the back of the car. And he's trying to calm me down. And I'm saying terrible, terrible things to this guy. Number one, I'm not even thinking of him as a police officer. I'm thinking of him as Joe.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, where you giving me? Where are you taking me? Where are we going? So we're going for a ride. So he takes me down to the police station. He doesn't lock me in the cell, but he makes me sit there for a couple hours. So he said, "Are you okay now?" "Yeah." "Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
Takes me back. He said, "Now I'm going to follow you home. I want you to go home." So he follows me and I go home. So back in those days, they always had these there was several newspapers. This used to be it wasn't in New York City, but it was a fairly large area. We had 3 newspapers. It was like 100 and some thousand people here. And we had a morning paper. "Carbondale youth arrested for drunk and disorderly."
Oh.
My father was so proud.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Right there in the Carbondale section, and big black letters. He passed Officer Joe on Belmont Street, and he was intoxicated. And honestly, they never arrested me, but the paper put it in there. Well, that was also that night. I got stopped 3 times on the way from Scranton to Carbondale for speeding and drunk. But I got all these fines I had to pay. But when they did my background, I mean, this is the difference in the world today that it was in. When they did my background for DEA, none of that showed up. And we're going back to your original question, how were you treated?
Yeah.
I think we were, at least me, I can only speak for me and the guys I was with, we were treated pretty damn good. I mean, I could have gone to jail, but I didn't have that problem. Again, a very patriotic town, a big World War II town. So I was lucky in a lot of respects.
Yeah, that's nice to hear that there was respect for the uniform.
There was, and guys actually would come in the bar and on leave, and they'd have their uniform on, and everybody respected it. I did not have that problem. The only thing, like my dad, he would never really ask me about it. I don't think he really wanted to know too much about what went on. But the old veterans, the old World War II guys, like when I tried to join the VFW, they wouldn't let me join. They said, "Well, it wasn't a declared war. You have to join the American Legion."
Really?
Yeah. Now, it wasn't like that everywhere, but in that area where I was from, that's what they did. They wouldn't let you in. And as you get older, you realize that at that point in 1970, these VFW guys were all World War II vets who were about 50 years old. And they weren't about to let a bunch of 18-year-old Vietnam veterans in there and take their World War II glory.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but ever since then, I'll buy a poppy, but that's it.
Yeah.
And I know that's wrong because those guys are all gone now, but it just left a really bad taste in my mouth.
Hey,
I was out of the Army when I was 19 years old.
Wow. So there wasn't like the 4-year enlistment, 3-year draft, whatever?
Well, there was 2-year draft, and you could join the Army for 3 years. The Marines at that point would let you in for 2 or 3, but right before that, the Marines required 4 years. If you joined the Army for 4 years, they guaranteed you a really good school, which I would have failed out of anyway and ended up in the infantry for 4 years. And now I understand a lot of the enlistments are 6 years. I can't even imagine that. But I liked the Army. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought, of course, you're 18 or 17, everything is exciting, and that's why they don't draft guys like me and you now.
Because they don't want to roll those wheelchairs
Come on,
out there.
5 o'clock, get out of bed. Oh, I don't think so. How about I get up and beat your brains in, okay?
Yeah.
So, that's why they get you when you're young. You'll do anything they tell you.
All right, so let's talk about some of the adventures you had with DEA. We'll get into some of your postings here. When you went through the academy, where'd you go?
Glencoe.
Wonderful Fletsy.
Yeah, I liked it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Very
I
good.
liked it better than Quantico.
All right. Not many people say that because of all the little bugs down there and the heat and the humidity.
Oh, like Virginia didn't have any bugs.
Oh my goodness. I went through Quantico. It was hot. It was humid.
Those little love bugs and little potato bugs or whatever the hell they are, little red ones everybody think are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
They swarmed one summer. And I'm not exaggerating. The entire ceiling in our office was red. There were literally tens of thousands of these little love bugs.
Was that in Quantico?
Yeah. Yeah, that was in Quantico.
Jeez. Yeah, I went
Yeah.
through Quantico June through September. Man, it was hot and humid.
When did you go through?
And 87.
Oh, you're a rookie.
I was back then. When you were going through the academy, I know with your glowing personality, you probably didn't tick anybody off. Did you have to write any memos while you were there?
No, but Dick McCoy saved me from being thrown out. Did you know Dick McCoy?
I don't.
He's passed on now. He was a very big guy. I don't want to say dopey because he was very intelligent. I think he had a PhD.
Well,
And he was a rack up in Wyoming later on. But he was one of these guys that would stick up for anybody. If you weren't an ass. And what happened was, again, I had no law enforcement experience. I had no idea what I was even doing there. I had all these guys that had been cops for 10 years, 12 years. I'd been hiding from the cops for 10 or 12 years.
you probably still are.
So we had one of the legal classes was an FBI lawyer teaching it, and he was a dick. So I'm standing out in the hallway, and I don't realize that he's standing around the corner. I said, he's a fucking asshole. So that caused a problem.
You think?
And they were getting ready to put me on double secret probation, and all that they do to you, which is good, unless you're the recipient of it.
Yeah.
And Dick McCoy went in and said, he made up some story about me having a tough time in Vietnam, and they never bothered me. But
Excellent.
that was the worst thing that happened while I was there. We stayed in townhouses. We had our own room. I'll tell you, who was in the room not in my room, but in the building with me, was Rick Finley.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was killed in South America. He was one of our classmates in my townhouse with me, and he was just you hear people say, oh, he's the nicest guy. Rick was the nicest guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just was a sweetheart. He was a great guy. But no, I thought Glencoe was pretty good.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
I mean, Quantico was a lot stricter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the bureau's up there.
The bureau, and that was a problem, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were a lot tougher. I mean, it's not that the people at Glencoe were easy on us. They weren't. People hated me in retrospect when I was a counselor and when I was an instructor. I was a dick. And I'm the first one to admit it. I had the military mind, and they all had the, I don't know, let's have some fun mind.
Yeah. 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 You were serious.
Oh, yeah. A little too serious, maybe, at times. And some things I regret. Sometimes I don't. But they were a lot more strict with the bats, the basic agents at Quantico, than they were.
Where did you put down on your wish list that you wanted to go after graduating the academy?
Philadelphia, Atlantic City, and then my soon to be my wife said, well, I have a friend that lives in Albuquerque. And I'll put Albuquerque down. David Hess, from Philadelphia to Albuquerque. I looked at Joe Kilmer. I said, where is Albuquerque? He said, well, you put it down on your list. I said, I know, but my girlfriend said to. So that's where I ended up. And I liked it after the first couple of years. It's culture shock.
Yeah, it's got to grow on you.
Yeah, once it does, you become one of them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, quite a while, weren't you?
I was there almost 9 years, yeah. And then I went to Quantico. I was supposed to go to Belize, and I had put in for Belize and Quantico, and they selected me for Belize. And at that time, that was a third world country. I guess it still is for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much.
But they sent Ish Fuentes. Did you know Ish Fuentes?
No, I don't think I ever heard that name.
Well, that's all right. they sent Ish. He had been in Albuquerque and he was in headquarters, and they sent Ish out to talk to me and my wife, tell me, we don't want you to go over there for a month, and then the wife wants to come home. You know that story, everybody. Yeah, we'll go to Pakistan. We'll be okay. Week later, she's gone.
Yeah.
So my wife, who surprised me, actually went along with it. And then we're all ready to go, and they called me and said, would you rather go to Quantico?
Oh.
And my dad was still alive, and her mom was still alive, and they were in Pennsylvania. So, well, they're both up in years. So at least be able to go visit them once a month or twice a month. Yeah. And so I chose Quantico.
Yeah. But now, when you were at Albuquerque, what'd you focus on out there? What was your responsibilities?
Mostly the nightclubs.
I mean, work-wise.
Oh, work-wise. They're great nightclubs. Well, tell people this and they laugh at me because, the big problem in the country right now is methamphetamine, one of the big problems, obviously.
Yeah.
So I got there and my hair grew long. I always did have long hair. Mm-hmm. I looked like a maggot. And they said, start working meth. So me and this other agent, Kevin Small, I don't know if you know Kevin or not. Kevin became famous with his Amtrak ordeals.
The name is familiar.
Yeah, he's still contracting with DEA. But he and I started working bikers and meth. And the old guys, I don't know, where did you go right out of the academy?
Miami in 1987.
Okay. Well, we had a lot of New Yorkers in Albuquerque. Got out of New York, went out west. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't talk in front of you. They'd say, well, we got this case going. Dick, come on out in the hall. I'll tell you something.
These are agents.
Yeah, until they got a nut on you. Mm-hmm. And then they talk to you.
Yeah, that's typical.
I still remember Tommy Morales. See, I can say all this stuff now because what are they going to do to me? So we're out on surveillance. I'm on the job about a month. So Tommy Morales, I don't know if you know Tommy. He did a lot of work on Kiki's case. He was good friends with Kiki. I think they might have been in the Marines together.
Okay.
And nice guys. So we're sitting in the car, and they wouldn't even talk to you. I mean, it was like they didn't want to know anything about you.
Yeah.
So he looks over at me and goes, now we're in the G car, we're on surveillance, right? And he goes, do you want a beer? Yeah. So we knocked down a 6-pack. So the next day he goes in, he looks at her and goes, yeah, he's all right. So that's how I got involved with bikers. Me and Kevin, we were both young. But what I was getting back to about methamphetamine is Tommy and Dick Rodinger and all these guys, Steve Bissiger, the old agents, they'd all say, yeah, Hess and Small are out there working kitty dope.
Because they wanted to work heroin cases.
If you weren't working heroin, it was kitty dope. And they considered methamphetamine to be kitty dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even cocaine was like, well, if you had a good lick, it was good. But, I mean, it was just a different time. I almost blew a building up. Unfortunately, it was the building we were stationed in. This is how much DEA has changed. Me and Kevin were working labs, and we get this lab. Now, this is hard to believe, and you're probably going to look at me and say he's telling me a story.
Okay.
This is in 1985, before they got, and I think I might be the one that was responsible for the rules and regulations on methamphetamines and labs. We get this lab. So if you got a lab, all you did, you took the whole lab. Okay, you took gallons of acetic anhydride, cases of phenylacetic acid, and liquids,
Yeah.
You'd put them in a big box and mail them to the lab in Dallas. Put them in the mail. So we took them, and we got this little lab, and I put them in a closet. I put everything in a closet. I'll get around to sending it to the lab. Wasn't a big lab.
Oh.
So, do you remember a guy by the name of Dave Canada?
Don't think so.
He was our ASAC. In the morning, you could not meet a nicer person. After lunch, the brain cells changed. Little cocktail.
Understood.
So I'm walking in one day. I'm just sort of starting on the job a couple of months, and he calls me in his office. I'm walking by. Hey, come here. You're a new guy, right? Yeah. Been hearing good things about you. I think you're going to be a good agent. Welcome aboard. Thank you, sir. So I go out and have lunch, come back. He goes, "Hey, come here. Hey, the future star? I don't like what you've been doing." I mean, just like that, his personality. I don't hear any more about you.
Yes,
He
sir.
was, him and another agent, I won't mention his name, but he was supposed to be acting supervisor one day. And candidate, he's dead now, so I can talk about him. Always speak bad of the dead.
Never heard that before.
He comes back, and Steve was a writer. Like, he was always writing the sixes, always writing sixes.
Mm-hmm.
Steve is still alive. He's up in Illinois somewhere. Yes. He had great big Popeye arms. So candidate comes up and, well, I have to back up. You can edit this if you want. When Steve first got there, he had been a patrol officer in Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still in the cop state of mind. Candidate goes out to lunch, wrecks the car up, and they call back to the office and send somebody, send an agent. Well, of course, you're supposed to have someone of a higher grade, right, to investigate him. So the Bissinger's a 7 at the time. They sent him out. He's got the tape measure. He's taking pictures, right? So candidate gets like fucking 30 days on the beach. So no love lost there. It's funny now. Bissinger's at the desk writing papers, and candidate comes back. It's after lunch. He goes, "Are you acting today?" Bissinger goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, get in that supervisor's office and assume a position of authority." Steve said, "I'm busy. I'm writing. I can be a supervisor right here." He said, "Get your ass in there." Steve said, "I'm not going in there." So next thing you know, candidate says, our office was in an L shape. Candidate's office was all the way at the other end. He didn't want to be near us, I guess. So here Bissinger said, "Get out of my office." So Bissinger, he looked like Mr. Clean. He looked just like him. And his head got just beet red. He goes marching. See, you can't see all my good motions I'm making. It's a shame. So he marches down to his office, and now they're screaming at each other. "Yeah, I'll fire you." Bissinger goes, "I'll throw you out that window, you old drunk." Next thing you hear is the drawer open. "Don't come near me. I'll shoot you." "Nap, you old drunk."
Oh, my God.
Bissinger goes back to his desk, and that was the end of it. It was wild out there. But candidate was, and I was starting to tell you stories. So me and Kevin I don't know, I could tell you 100 stories about crazy shit that happened out there.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I was telling you about how I almost blew the building up. So it's funny now, it was in the bank building, and it was like 10, 11 stories high. And we were on the 9th floor. And so I got this stuff stashed for about a week. I don't know how much you've been around meth labs or if you've ever been around one. I mean, big time agent like you, probably not.
Nope.
You all work in the big boys. I'm over there arresting
Evil Knievel.
Oh, dear God. Now, this stuff stinks to high heaven. I don't think I've ever said those words, high heaven.
You have now.
So I'm out in the car riding around, probably doing nothing, just riding around. Click, click. He doesn't even say AL7. He says, "Hess, get your ass back here right now." I'm in trouble.
And who was at the SAC?
That was candidate.
Okay.
So that was an ASAC office, district office.
Yep.
So I go back, and he goes, "I want that mailed out today, right now. I don't want you to do one more thing to that stuff. The secretaries are getting sick. Everybody's getting sick." Okay. So me and Kevin are there. Where we mailed everything out was in the back. There was like a mail room.
Yeah.
And there was a door. It was a kick door. You'd kick it and the door would fly open so you could get through. So I had the box of chemicals. I kicked the door. Kevin says something. I turn around. The door comes back, hits the box, knocks it on the floor, smashes all the acetic anhydride, phenylacetic acid in there, mercury chloride, which is deadly. And I'm going, "Oh, man." Kevin, I said, "This is how stupid we were. Kevin, get a mop." Fred Moore is sitting there, who's an old-time agent. He saw he was the only one in the building, him and candidate. Fred looked, took his key, locked his drawer, got up and left. He knew he was one of the old New Yorkers. So me and Kevin's mopping away, and I'm trying to pick this glass up, and it's not good. Okay, it's not good. So I said, Kevin, we better tell Mr. Can. No, don't tell Kennedy. Don't tell him. So Art Medina was still there. Art Medina was a supervisor. Did you know Art by chance?
No.
You didn't know anybody except Escobar, did you? You know, there were agents that actually worked. And finally I said, we got to tell Kennedy. I said, Kevin dropped a box of chemicals. You know what? I said, I don't know. I said, he dropped them. So he goes back, and poor Kevin, he's mopping away, and he's wringing this stuff out with his hands, the mop. And the fumes now are so high, you can see the fumes, right? So Kennedy says, I'm surprised he didn't go crazy. He said, grab that fire extinguisher with the powder, whatever the hell's in it, he said, and spray it and knock the fumes down, which I thought was a good idea. So we do. And now it's snowing inside the building because the fumes are so strong that all this white CO2 or whatever it is floating around in the office.
Oh,
now Kennedy says, open the back door. Let's get some air in here. So the back door went out to the elevator. I opened the door, and I swear to God, Steve, it was like something you'd see on TV. All the snow went out the door, and all the fumes went out the door, into the elevator shaft, up to the 10th, 12th floor where the old ladies were up there having their exercise class. Kennedy says to Art Medina, call the fire department, tell them not to turn the sirens on. Tell them we've had a small spill. Art Medina gets on the phone, and on a 1 to 10, Art was running a strong 1.5. Oh, we got a chemical spill up here, and you better get somebody up here. Next thing we know, fire trucks are coming. Police are coming, right? EMTs are coming. Kevin's mopping the floor. So in come the firemen, and they got full gear on, right? And we look out the window, and they're carrying these big fat women who were up on the 10th floor, 12th floor, exercising. They're carrying them. They can't get in the elevator. They're carrying them down. Well, they got blankets laid out in the parking lot, and they're laying these old ladies out in there, and they're giving them oxygen. It wasn't good. Now we got a helicopter flying around. ABC News, their local affiliate, flying around. They're taking pictures of everything. Now, this is how bad we were, stupid. Kevin's mopping. Kennedy says to me, down in the office, I want to talk to you, see what happened. So I go down to his office. Firemen are running all. What happened here? They don't know. They'd never been exposed. Is this stuff poisonous?
Oh.
We don't know. You don't know. No, we don't really know, but it's probably not good. So I'm in there with Kennedy, and he goes, you want a cigarette? I go, yeah. So we're firing up Marlboros. The phone rings. Kennedy at DEA. He looks at me and goes, it's for you. I go, it's for me. It's my wife. Dave, I just watching TV, and they broke in on the news, and they said that the bank building is... There's a big chemical spill down there in the bank. Yeah, I did it. She started screaming, laughing, and Kennedy started laughing. And then he looks at me and goes, I got to call the U.S. attorney. There's going to be so many lawsuits behind this. We didn't have one lawsuit, but they did ask us to leave.
I'll bet.
And that's after that, I think, and I'm probably bragging now, but I think that spill caused 1986 buying lab trucks and we had no equipment. We went out and got a lab. We were I remember Dick Roddinger would say to us, hey, we're going to do a lab tomorrow, kid. Wear shorts. It's going to be hot. So he'd have burns on you, and he'd take chemicals. He'd sniff them. He'd go, put this in my trunk. I can clean my engine with this. Or throw this in the ditch. One time we put so many chemicals in the ditch that we had like one of the smoke bombs from World War II. You couldn't see across the street.
Oh, God.
And you're over in South America running around. See what you missed?
Oh, thank God. Holy cow.
You'd rather fight Escobar, right?
Damn right. Holy cow.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
it was good.
So, I mean, after hearing just that one story, I can see why they didn't want to unleash you on a foreign country.
Yeah,
you to
Belize would be the best I could get, I guess, right? Yeah, send him to Belize. He can't hurt much there. But yeah, that was. Then we tried to get out of the building, and all the newscasters were there. So Canada wouldn't let me and Kevin and him leave. We had to stay there until they left. And both, especially Kevin's eyes were burnt. So we had to go to the hospital, and we laid on a table like for several hours while they just sprayed a stream of water on our eyeball.
Oh, man.
I don't know if Canada told them to do that or that's what you're supposed to do.
Your punishment.
It was like waterboarding my eye.
Lord. So now you've changed the whole state of New Mexico.
Pretty much.
They send you to Quantico. Now, what did they assign you to in Quantico?
Well, originally I was at the practical unit teaching undercover. Then somebody left out at the Plan Lab unit, and I went out there. I hated that.
Oh, no.
Well, they figured if anybody knows what not to do. So I stayed there, did a little bit of travel with international, couple trips. That was fun. And then I came back, and I went back to the practical unit because there was no one there. So they put me there, and I was the only one. So I did all the practicals by myself and hoped that somebody from one of the other units would come and help me at night.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I won't mention his name, but the dick put me back out in the Clan Lab unit after new people came in. And then after my 5 years up there, I went to Denver.
Now, did you want to go to Denver?
Nah, I wanted to go to Florida, but that's another story. That's another somebody screwed me story. But Denver was okay. I didn't mind Denver until the one boss showed up and ruined my life. But other than that, it was good.
Yeah, you had a challenging SAC, special agent in charge, right?
Oh yeah, he was great. And then after he left, I was gone a week, and I got promoted and went to Seattle with the best SAC I ever had, John Bott.
Good man.
Amazing man. Unfortunately, he died very young.
Yeah. When you were in Denver, what were your responsibilities out there?
Hide from the SAC. Well, he was a dick.
Yeah.
He'd stand if he saw you come in. He'd go, "Where's your tie?" I said, "I'm going out on the street." "Well, you're not on the street now, are you?"
Oh,
"Go home and get a tie."
what a jerk.
I'm gonna beat him up someday. He's about 4'2". I mean, this guy hated me. I mean, I didn't do anything to the guy. I have no idea. Somebody obviously dropped a dime that didn't like me. He hated me. I was doing training, doing the state and local thing, and I was tired of training. I wanted to go back on the street, but he knew that, so he put me in asset forfeiture. I can't do my checkbook. They were trying to explain these shelf accounts to me, and I might as well have been looking at the space shuttle. No idea. So I sat there for 2 years. I literally sat and looked out the window.
I think you told me you worked with Carl Lilly.
Yeah.
Good man.
Carl knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I was just looking out the window.
Well,
it was awful.
After you'd been there a few years, you decided to transfer. You were trying to get a promotion. How many times did you try to get a promotion?
About 150 times.
I knew that answer.
I'm not exaggerating. And like I said, every time I'd get a call from Cincinnati or Buffalo and say, "Hey, you're the guy." Next day, nothing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the little sack doing this to me, but it wasn't. It was a guy from Quantico who I thought liked me, and I had a discussion with him about going back to the Clan Lab unit. He was a unit chief. It wasn't an argument, but it was a discussion, heavy discussion. And years later, well, not years later, during this time of trying to get promoted, one of my classmates called me up who was working with him at the time, and she said, "Dave, stop calling him. Every time you call him, he calls up headquarters and tells him you're a dick."
Oh.
And it wasn't the sack, it was this guy. He tried to be friends with me on Facebook, and I wrote him a note back. I said, "I know what you did to me. You're a dick. Don't ever contact me again."
Yeah. What a shame.
Yeah, and as soon as he left, Jim Craig got me promoted like within literally 2 weeks.
Yeah. Jimmy Craig's good people.
Oh,
good people.
Jim's the best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the end of my Denver career. And I went up with John Bott, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go back on the street. And he said, would you like to be the Met supervisor? Okay.
And what? And
I liked it.
Yeah, explain to everybody what Met is.
Well, Met was, and I think it's gone now, and I think it may have been one of the best programs they ever had.
I liked it.
It was a deal where small towns, say like Scranton, you have 70,000 people or smaller, and the chief would call up to the SAC and say, we got 10 cops, 20 cops, and we got a big problem out here, meth problem, heroin problem, whatever. So what we would do is we'd round up my group, and our group would round up some of their informants, and we would go to that place and stay probably 20 miles away, and then we'd send the informants out to gather intelligence, who's doing what, and then we would start introducing our own undercovers with the informants, and we'd stay there 4 or 5 months, not arrest anybody, and then at the end we'd do a big roundup. And I thought it was a successful program. I really
thought so
did.
too. I agree.
And then they stopped that, and then they started RET, which was a regional thing, and that never caught on. But the Met thing, we figured something out on that. It was, okay, so you'd arrest 20 people, 30 people. As one guy explained, he says, if you have a turd laying on the ground and flies come and you shoo them away and you come back 10 minutes later, they're back. And that is what was happening with Met. You'd arrest them and then they would gather back again. So we came up with an idea that about a week before you were going to bring this all down, you'd meet with religious leaders and city leaders and social people, workers, and say, hey, look, something's going to happen here, and we're going to need your help when we do this. Set up programs, basketball programs, whatever, boxing, whatever.
Right.
And that seemed to help a little bit.
Nice.
And then they closed it down after that. I enjoyed it. And then we got into that little bit of a shooting, and I figured they're kind of old for this.
And so when you start telling the story, I can't let you go until you tell the story. So let's talk about this shooting.
Well, it was an accident.
Sure. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Judge.
That's it. It was a med operation, and we were getting ready to take it down. And this one, I don't remember the names, but this one of the main guys showed up to make a delivery. And my guys, as a good supervisor, you never blame your guys. You always take blame for it.
Right.
Well, my guys fucked this up. Wasn't me, but he was supposed to make a delivery outside of a motel. And I was parked where I could see him coming in. All of a sudden I look and I got 2 of my guys are standing like in the parking lot. So as soon as this guy pulled in, he sees them and he just kept going. He wasn't going to make his delivery, and he had his girlfriend or wife with him.
Were they in raid vests or jackets or what?
No, but it was obvious. Yeah. I mean, Stevie Wonder could have told, So I see him take off, and I'm freaking out because I knew the guy had again, we didn't get like tons of cocaine, but we knew he had a couple keys on him probably.
Yeah.
But he had been making deliveries and we wanted them. And it was time to everybody to go down. So I'm the only one. Everybody else is out on foot, and they're in the hotel. It was like double doors, adjoining rooms. So I'm the only one in a car. So I start following them. I'm trying to get somebody on the radio. No one's talking to me. So he's going like 8 miles an hour on the highway, and I'm going 6.
Yeah, kind of obvious.
I am just not going to let this guy go, right?
Yeah.
So he takes the ramp, and I get a hold of one of my guys to call the police, call the real cops, and tell them to stop this guy. And luckily enough, just as he got off the ramp, cop shows up, pulls him over, and having a discussion with him. And at this point, I'm like, let the cops handle it. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to ask somebody to do something and then not involve them. They're talking to him, and I'm standing behind them, and And there's some laws in Seattle or Washington are strange. You can't search a vehicle without probable cause. And something about a dog has to hit. I don't know. It was just way out of my league. This cop is talking to him, and then another cop shows up. And then I had to call my guys at the motel room and say, come out and ride by in the van and point him out. That's what it was. I want to talk to you right now. They get in the van, and they drive by, and the one guy puts his finger out the window and points at him and shakes his head. Well, this guy sees him do that. He was a Mexican national. And the van goes by, and this guy freaks and starts the van. We should have taken his keys off him. Starts his car up and takes off. And when he does, the police officer just pulls a gun out and shoots him 3 times.
Oh.
He said, well, he ran over my foot.
Oh.
Okay. So, and the bullet goes through him and then hits the girlfriend in the belly. And she's all dressed in white. And he drove about 200 yards. Yeah, he got hit right under the arm. And I'm talking to this cop on the side because everybody goes up, and I'm standing there talking to this female cop. And I'm telling her, I said, this is going to be a lot of paperwork. I said, I can't believe this is like my last case, almost my last day on the street. And they shot this guy. I'm going to be writing paper for a month. So anyway, he died. She was hit in the stomach, took her to the hospital. She was covered. She was all blood. So we go to interview her the next day. She's gone. She walked out of the hospital.
Wow.
I don't know how she got out, but she was gut shot. So she probably made it back to Mexico. John Bott calls me in a couple of days later. He goes, Dave, I don't care if they shot the guy. I don't care. He said, but next time you're talking to a cop during a shooting, be sure that cop turns off her recorder because you got a lot of splaining to do when you get to court. Like, I just wanted to beat her to death. But, so that was that story.
Was it ruled a good shooting or what happened?
A very good shooting.
Okay. All right. And then
Although
after that,
I didn't see any tire tracks on his boot, though.
hey, you know what? There's a friend of mine here where we are here in Florida. When his wife tells a story and he's suspect, and I look at him and he'll say, hey, it's her story. She tells it the way she wants to.
That's right. So that's what happened.
So
And,
that led to your retirement?
well, that not necessarily. And then they put me up in the special ed unit, And,
The Rubber Gun Squad.
yeah, I was up there, and it was nice. I had a big office, overlooked Puget Sound,
Oh, nice.
had my stereo. And my ASAC would say to me, why are you here all the time? And I work here.
Yeah.
Because you got all seasoned agents working with you. He said, we said, just come in, show your face. You don't have to hang around. Thinking, this is great. Making a bunch of money, right? Don't look at me like that, Darla dog. My dog is looking at me like, are you going to stop talking? So I was there about a year and a half, I guess. And one day I was sitting there looking out at the Puget Sound, and I said, I'm done. I called my wife up, said, I'm retiring. She said, why? I said, I don't know. It's just time to go. Well, where are we going to go? I said, we're going to go home. She said, well, where the hell is home? Scranton. Well, at the time, we were gambling a lot. And Scranton at the time didn't have gambling. So I said, what's a good idea? I said, we won't be gambling. 6 months after we got back, they opened up 3 casinos. I went to Afghanistan to get my money back. It was a good time.
I got to tell our listeners, because when you and I were talking, you were telling me these stories. He said, we became professional gamblers. And I said, how'd you do? And he said, I had to go get a job.
Yeah. I got a trip to Afghanistan over it. 2 trips, in fact. Well, I went over for a year. I thought, well, that'll cover the bills. And God bless her, my wife passed away last year. And we were great friends, and we gambled, and we had fun. We had a great life. But I come back after a whole year I spent over there. I was making good money. And she got all the bills paid. And I get home, and she says to me, second day I'm home, I have to talk to you.
Oh, no, not
That's
that
never
one.
I'm thinking, oh, God, she must have met some guy or something.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind.
Well, that's what came to my mind, because she was an attractive woman.
Uh-huh.
I think, oh, she must have met some guy. She said, I spent a lot of money at the casino.
Oh,
You did? I said, well, that's all right, honey. Did you pay the bills? Yeah, most of them. What do you mean most of them? I said, spent like $250,000 on me, or whatever it was. A lot of money.
yeah.
She said, well, I paid most of them off. I said, well, that's all right. Oh, how much did you spend? A lot.
Mm.
How much is a lot, Pumpkin? About 40,000. 40,000.
Oh,
So then I just thought for a second, well, she was here alone. This is the way gamblers think.
Uh-huh.
You justify shit.
Yeah.
I said, well, it's all right. I said, you know what? Grab your purse, grab your jacket. Let's get on the casino. And off we went.
Wow.
And if you read my second book, Gamble, you'll get the whole story.
All right. That was a pretty good segue right there. You did good.
Not bad.
What were you doing in Afghanistan? What were your responsibilities?
First trip, I was an instructor. We were teaching at a police academy, and it was the police and the army. I don't know what we were doing. It was like teaching cavemen, trying to teach them how to do surveillance, and you would have to do a practical exercise in a compound as big as your office.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, but it was fun. We didn't do firearms because do you realize there were more contractors shot and killed in Afghanistan than there were soldiers?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then I went home. I was teaching Undercover, which was stupid, and surveillance, which was stupid. And I'll never forget one time they asked me to go and teach one of the. And this is the mentality. One of the guys one of our agents was sick. They said, would you go over and teach a management class? I know nothing about it, but I will. So I go over. I'm teaching these guys. They could tell them anything. So I go through 8 hours, and I got interpreters, and they're all shaking their head. And I get all done. And the one old guy who fought the Russians raised his hand. He said, yes, through the interpreter, he said, everything you have told us is very good. And I think in a lot of places it will work, but not in Afghanistan. The only way you get people to do things here is you beat them.
Oh, okay.
So there was a waste of 8 hours.
Yeah.
You just beat them.
What were the other students? How'd they react to that? Or they just,
yeah, pretty much. They're different.
Oh
I
my
like
gosh.
them. I love the Afghan people. I got a kick out of them. They were different.
yeah.
So the second time I went back, I became the program manager of the academy, and that paid even more money. But I told my wife before I left, I said, if you spend this money, I will divorce you. I won't, I promise.
Oh.
So that was the end of her. No, we stayed together, and we pretty much, the only time we gambled after that was maybe once every month or two, we'd go to Atlantic City. We actually signed out if we couldn't gamble in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was against the law for us to gamble there. So that worked out all right.
Good. Now did you do a stint teaching in college, at a local college?
I did at a small community college. I taught criminal justice, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Because you can tell those kids anything. You can make shit up. But I did that for about 6 years, and then I went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I wouldn't want to do it for a living anymore. It's all changed. Like when I was there, you actually did hands-on. Now it's all computer. It's not the same. These kids were just so excited that they had a federal agent.
Yeah.
And
So
I tell them these stupid stories. It was fun.
A little bit gullible, were they?
Very. And it was a little school that was basically designed for kids who didn't graduate from high school or had GEDs, who I related to, or didn't have a high enough grade to get into the University of Scranton or Penn State. So they went there to get their feet wet, and it was great. And some of them were smart; they just didn't pay attention, and some of them were just stupid. You know that old saying, "There are no stupid questions."
Yeah. There are.
Don't ever believe that, because man, I've had some stupid questions. But the one I get, and I never gave papers. And if I did give a paper, I'd say 300 words, one sheet. If you give me more than one sheet, I won't read it. I'm going to give you an F.
Okay.
So this one kid decides he's going to do a paper on J. Edgar Hoover. I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting to see how he does this in 300 words. So everybody's handing me their papers, which I didn't read. So I'm going through the papers. I go, Rodney, where's your paper? He goes, I couldn't find anything on J. Edgar Hoover. I said,
Really?
what?
Really?
Now, come on. I said, J. Did you Google it? There's nothing in there. Okay, you just earned yourself a B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because everybody else was getting an A.
Yeah.
You know, if you handed me a paper, you got an A. I didn't read it.
Oh my gosh.
So it flipped me out, and I go into the faculty room, and I'm throwing shit around. I go, what's wrong? I said, I tell them the whole story about J. Edgar Hoover. And this dope can't find anything on. I said, you can Google anything, and it's in there. So I said to the one gal, I said, you could take that Google, and you could type in there red fox's penis, and you'll find something. So she goes, let me see. And she types it in. She goes, oh my God. She said, the red fox penis has a little bone in it, and they make necklaces out of it. I said, there you go. And my guy, Rodney, can't find J. Edgar Hoover, but we find a necklace made out of a fox's penis. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, let's see, for our listeners, this is very educational when you come to Game of Crimes. You just never know what you're going to hear here.
Yeah, that's right. If your husband gives you a necklace and tells you it's made out of some sort of bone,
Get a new necklace.
you better find out what it is.
Oh my goodness. So how did you become an author after all this career?
Well, back the book you're reading right now, and the character's name is Stormy. Well, his name in the book is Slater.
Yeah.
And Slater was a good friend of mine, and I'm going to ruin the book on you. But the story is about him, basically. And I wrote a very short story about him when I was in Vietnam. I still have it somewhere. It's on a yellow piece of writing paper, handwritten. I thought, boy, someday I'd like to write a book about this guy. And the only reason I didn't write one was because I didn't like typing on typewriters. But as soon as computers came out, I started writing. So it took me 3 years to write that book. And then after I got it done, my editor looked at it. He goes, oh, my God, this is terrible. We have to fix this.
Thank you.
Editors are great, aren't they?
Oh, thank you. Can I have another, sir?
You didn't write this, did you? Yeah, I did, Frank. Well, we're going to fix it anyway because it's a good story. So I learned about editors. Anybody who tries to write a book without an editor is a fool. So I wrote that, and I don't want to get into it. It's a long story, but I didn't know what I was doing when I wrote Ambush. As you read that, and it starts jumping from Vietnam to DEA to the little story about his friend, and then back, it's like, I didn't do that on purpose. And my wife kept reading. She said, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, your wife will tell you anything, but not her. I mean, if it was bad, she'd say, this sucks. I'm going to casino. But I had no clue. And then all of a sudden I realized what I did. And everybody who read the book said, this is you, isn't it? I said, yeah, some of it, maybe. Not the part where the person gets shot. That's not me. Then I wrote Gamble, based Crocker, who's in Ambush. Gamble is the sequel to Ambush. Crocker is now a 60-year-old guy, and he's going to another war zone. And he starts comparing them. So I think it's my best book, but most people disagree with me, but I don't care.
It's your book.
But it's my book, and I can say whatever I want.
There you go.
But it's different. I do diaries in it. My views on war completely changed. And then I wrote, after that, I did you don't have a copy of that. But that's my last book. That's Ella. Ella is based very, very, very loosely on my great-great-grandfather who fought at Gettysburg.
Nice.
But the only thing that's really true in there is a story about Gettysburg. The rest of it is the softer side of Dave Hess. It's a romance. It's a good book.
I don't know.
I think all my books are good.
Yeah, I bet you do. But there's a softer side?
There is, and it's in there. And then I wrote a book which you don't have called Damaged, and it's a volume of short stories. And pretty much all of the short stories in it, many are fiction, some are not fiction, about police, things like something that a police officer would find funny, our sense of humor. It's a barrier, I think, to keep us from getting post-traumatic stress.
Yep. That's how we deal with stress and anxiety.
So I did about 10 or 12 stories in there. And some of them are interesting. Some of them I look at it now, I go, I probably shouldn't have put that in there. It wasn't that good. So kind of right now in the middle of putting together another volume of short stories that I think will be better than the one I did. But there is one story in there I find it's based on a real story. My father was born in Pike County, Pennsylvania, back in 1915, 1916. There was nothing there except Hess's. In fact, it used to be Hessville at one time. Yeah. I don't know why. They now it's called Shahola. So it's right on the Delaware River.
Okay.
But my grandfather was a chicken farmer. Not a bad guy. Not a great guy. I don't think he liked kids. But a man showed up one day. I have pictures of the guy. And I don't know if it's in the book or not, but he was like a hermit. And he asked my grandfather, he said, would it be okay if I went on your property and built like a shed or a hut? He said, I want to collect rattlesnakes. Now, I don't know if he was selling the venom or if he was just a lunatic. Grandfather, I'm sure he charged him. So he went up and he became quite a local, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but he was a character.
Yeah, base.
And he would go, and I have a picture of him with this big stick with the fork at the end of it where he'd catch the snake. And then people got to know him, and he had a post office box. He was originally, I think, from New York City, and he's sort of a dropout. Now, my story gets really fabricated. But in real life, he puts his boot on one morning, and you know the rest of the story.
Oh, there's a snake in there.
One of the snakes got out of his cage and killed him.
Oh, my goodness.
So I wrote a whole story. Of course, I made him a World War I veteran that was a hero, and, it's what you do with fiction. You're allowed to do anything. But it was based on a true story.
Yeah. Oh.
And, so that was interesting.
You know what, Dave? We can sit here and tell stories. I know you got a million of them.
No, I'm done.
We're going to call quits to it, but
I told you every one.
Yeah, right. I know better. Bill Hare has told us about you, so we might have.
Yeah, Bill Hare lies.
Hey, everybody, though, these books. This is the one I'm reading now, Ambush. I'm probably about 5/6 of the way through it. I'm pretty much through it. But you can order all these books on Amazon. It's Ambush, Ella, and Gamble by David Hess.
And Damaged.
Damaged. I didn't see that one on there, but support the guy, man. He's telling some good stories. You want to hear some inside workings, hear more funny stories about how people treat other people. A lot of it is fiction, but I think you told me that in Ambush, about 80% of Vietnam is true, and about 20% of DEA was true. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, support the guy. I did some checking here. You can find all those on Amazon. On Instagram, you can find Dave at Dave7442. On Facebook, you can find him under David Hess, Hess. LinkedIn is David Hess. And you got to get you a website, brother. You don't have a website.
I did have one, but I got mad at it. And my publisher is in the middle of putting one back together.
There you go.
I put these websites up. No one goes to them. I'm paying money every month. See, what I did, and for future anyone out there thinking about I tried to tell Bill Hare this. I might as well be talking to Darla over here. I said, Bill, you're not going to make any money on Amazon. Do your own publicity on Facebook. Get a post office box specifically for your book. When you do your advertising, in fact, if you look on your, did I not send you bookmarkers?
You did.
And I have a post office box on there.
You do.
Right? And then you have them. If you pay $5 for a book, you make, other than mailing it, you make 80% back on if you sell them. So I recommend that to any new author. And I'm telling him, go out and do book signings. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going out there and sell books. And you're dope. You
Yes.
got to do book signings.
Yep.
And they have that one with DEA where Joey Kilmer said they get together and they have all the DEA authors. Do you know anything? Did you hear about that?
No, I know that they post them on the AFNA website, the Association of Former Narcotics Agents, but I've never heard of a get-together.
Yeah, Kilmer knows everything. He knows everybody and everything. He was telling me about it. So you've done book signings. You've probably done all right. And usually my book signings, I get the old ladies come in and go, oh, these words are dirty. I can't read that. Or you get, is this going to be in the library? Yeah, I'll just get it there.
Why did they even say that?
I don't know. Isn't it awful? I mean, they'll say the stupidest shit to you. It's like, did you write this book? No, I'm sitting here for my brother. Are you going to buy a book, lady?
Yeah. If you order off our website, we have autographed books, and we even put a personal message on it.
Well,
people
that's the thing about the post office. You can.
Yeah,
that's
you can
what I
do that.
did with yours. I wrote my name in there.
Yep. But people will speak at different events, and people come up, oh, I bought your book on Amazon. Would you mind autographing it? Well, you can't say no.
You go, you should have bought it off me. I didn't make any money on that shit.
That's true.
Boy,
Funny how that all works.
I have a friend, and I'll give him a plug, and then I know you want to get going because you want to get to the beach. His name is Clarence Spady, S-P-A-D-Y. That's who called me before when I said, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
He is, and this always sounds so stupid when I say it, but he's 63 years old. Do you like blues?
I do.
Clarence is probably one of the top 10 blues players in the world.
Wow.
Serious substance abuse problems, knocked him out of a lot of. Stevie Wonder wanted him in his band. He's played with Clapton. He's a really good friend of mine. He lives 3 doors from me. But he's on Spotify. Another one, I think he gets a penny every time somebody plays his song. Now, you can put your books on Spotify, right?
I did not, but
yeah, you can. I'm going to.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Check it. Yeah, you can put it on there. But Spady, pull it up when you're bored, maybe while you're sitting there having a cocktail, and listen to some of his music. It's not just your standard blues.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely incredible.
I like it.
He's just incredible.
I like it.
S-P-A-D-Y.
Check it out, everybody. I mean, show these people some love. I mean, it's going to cost you a couple minutes just to go and log in and see what you.
Yet they'll go and they'll buy Eric Clapton. Eric doesn't need any more money.
Yes, yeah. I was a big Eric Clapton fan when I was younger.
I was a big fan of his until I read his biography. He's sort of a dick. I really lost my taste for him. And truthfully, Spady's probably just as good, if not better.
Well, a lot of people would say that you and I are probably dicks as well. So,
my God.
Takes one to know one, right?
Ask any one of my students from Aquatic.
Hey, Dave, thank you very much, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on.
It's
been
you
don't know what you're doing with the technology, but
who says you have to know anything? I never claimed to know anything. I used to have a co-host that took care of all this. So,
where's your where's the co-host?
Well, he still had a day job, and they increased his work responsibilities, but they increased his paycheck. So
that's what happens when you work.
Yep, he had to go take care of that. But it's been a hoot having you on here, brother. Thank you for giving us your time.
When will I be able to watch this?
When it comes out. We'll talk about that offline. I got a date set for you. So
you got a date. Is Bill Harris out yet?
Of course it is. He got a lot of comments and a lot of views. A lot of people liked his interview. We'll see what they say about you.
They got to say, don't bring that guy. He's got a filthy as Dave Westrate called me in his office at Quantico one day. He said, David, you're a potty mouth. And Lenny Luke called me when I was in Albuquerque. Did you know Lenny?
Yes.
A great guy. He was my first supervisor. What a wonderful guy. He passed last year. I used to talk to him all the time, but he called me in, and you had to know Lenny. You know, he and I were both Vietnam veterans. He had a silver star, which is
That's
pretty
big stuff.
amazing.
Yep.
And he said to me, "Good the fuck here." I said, "What?" He goes, "You have Tourette's syndrome. What the f-"
Sounds like he does.
Oh, he did. But he's telling me, you curse too much. But hey, Steve, I appreciate you having me on, and you'll be 3 weeks editing this.
Maybe. But and I gotta say, man, it is a hoot. And in all seriousness, thank you for your service to our country, both in Vietnam and in DEA. Hopefully the people in Afghanistan recovered from your 2 tours over there. And those kids that were in college with you as their teacher, God bless them. I'm sure they're all suffering from PTSD themselves.
Well, the one commonality in this is, right? You didn't notice?
What's that?
Vietnam, we came in second. DEA pretty much lost. So everything I touched turns to shit. I think we were winning Vietnam till I got there.
Well,
but hey, I appreciate it.
An honor. An honor, brother.
We'll get together eventually.
Yes, sir. All our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for continuing to come back here. I got more crazy guests lined up to come on here, just like Mr. Hess. And guess what? I didn't even call him Bill a single time. I always called him Dave.
That was good. I'm proud of you.
So in the meantime, everybody stay safe out there. I look forward to seeing you next week. And be sure to come back, because you know what this is. This is the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all. And that's the game of crimes. See y'all next week.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
I got to keep that in.
Thanks, Steve.